Today I want to talk about the Weasel and Nikolai. These are two characters that people love to draw connections between. Now, recently we have been able to extract some more Nikolai quotes from the Revelation game files. You see, typically we're able to get at all of the audio from a map very easily. However, with Revelations, what they did was encrypted all of the files, so you had to use various methods of encryption in order to actually be able to listen to them. People have been working on decrypting the files over the past month or so, and very slowly quotes trickle out to the public, and I thought today I would discuss one of the more interesting quotes from Nikolai. Let's first talk about the connections between Nikolai and the Weasel. People have been trying to connect these two characters for years, and it all stems from this quote from the Weasel.
Nikolai, 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 Nikolai. Why do I keep hearing that name?
We never had a great grasp on why Treyarch included this quote in their game. It just seemed out of place. Mob of the Dead was this isolated place separated from everything else when it came out at the time. We weren't even sure how canon it was in the Greater Zombies universe, or if it even had an effect on the Greater Zombies universe. So for the Weasel to just suddenly point out Nikolai like that seems strange. These are two characters that shouldn't know each other. After all, the Weasel lived in the United States and Nikolai lived in Russia, so it seems strange. It didn't make much sense. And there were a number of theories. Some people suggested that this is a case of bleeding universes, which has been seen in the zombie storyline, or maybe it's just a subtle nod. Maybe he's referring to a different Nikolai, possibly Nikola Tesla. So all these different theories arose. None quite had a good explanation, and that's where we really are with this quote. There's not much to really say about it because we don't understand the context or the intention of including a quote like this in the game. That doesn't stop people though from trying to make connections between these two characters. A recent one that we've seen float around with the release of Revelations is this idea that the characters are brothers. Now this is definitely one of the more outlandish connections between the Weasel and Nikolai. It does not base itself on any really facts or merit. It's one of those theories that I listen to and just immediately dismiss. My point though is, despite having no evidence, people try to connect these two characters. Now this new Nikolai quote, I would say, is the most solid connection between the Weasel and Nikolai we've ever had. Take a listen.
Nikolai, Nikolai, why do I keep hearing that name? Oh, of course. Why didn't I think of it before?
So here we have Nikolai quoting the Weasel, which is a strange thing to see in zombies. It's not the first time it's happened though. For example, we've seen Dr. Monty quote the Shadow Man before.
I have been watching. I have seen each and every one of your misdeeds.
I have been watching. I have seen each and every one of your misdeeds.
There is a little bit of a precedence for this to happen. Now, why would Nikolai say this though? I mean, Nikolai, why do I keep hearing this name? Well, that's Nikolai's name. So maybe this is a matter of Treyarch just toying with us. This is a relatively famous quote from Black Ops 2. I think most zombie storyline enthusiasts are familiar with this quote, and it's one that's been discussed and theorized about a lot. So maybe Treyarch is getting a little bit meta by having a commentary on their own community, by having Nikolai say this quote. And potentially it's just a little bit of a joke. There isn't any significance. Why does Nikolai always hear his name? Because it's his name, and then even he realizes that, and it's like, oh, just a little silly comment or thought that I had. That's one theory. That's one interpretation of this quote, but maybe this was intentionally put into the game to create a link and a connection between the Weasel and Nikolai. What if Treyarch is saying, hey, remember that quote from Mob of the Dead that seemed pretty important? Well, yes, it is important, and this is Treyarch's way of verifying that information to us. Now, of course, there really isn't a great conclusion that we can draw. We can't look at this and say, oh, the Weasel and Nikolai are clearly brothers, or the Weasel and Nikolai are clearly one in the same person. No, you can't do that with a quote like that, and maybe there is a greater reason that Nikolai is hearing his name beyond it just being his own name. Maybe there are voices in his head that are also whispering Nikolai. Maybe there's a voice within his head and the Weasel who are the same person, or possibly the Weasel is overhearing the voices in Nikolai's head. These are all strange potential phenomenons that could be happening. Now, of course, they're not grounded or based in any evidence, These are just hypotheses and theories that possibly explain what's going on. Either way, I do believe this solidifies the connection between the Weasel and Nikolai. What that connection is and what Treyarch is hinting at is hard to say, but hopefully it can be explored in future Call of Duty games as well as comic books. We're just going to have to wait and see. That's going to wrap things up for this video though. If you enjoyed it, maybe give it a like, possibly subscribe for more. I'm always covering the zombie storyline and the latest findings, so if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy the next one. Have a great day, and bye.